Welcome to making a hip hop beat with FL Studio from Media 360. We're continuing from the previous video where we had selected the instruments that we wanted to use in our projects. In this video, things are going to get interesting because we're going to actually start making the beat. Okay? Follow along as we lay out the snares, the kicks and the hats. Let's start with the snares because for me the snare is the heart of the beat. Without a good snare, the beat will never sound good. If your snare is not on point, your beat will not be on point. The snare is the heartbeat of the song, and that's why I can't listen to music without snares. I can't understand how you can make a song without snares. So let's get straight into it. We start by going to our channel rack where all our instruments are. Okay, this is a channel rack. Okay, we're going to be laying out the beats in the piano roll, but make sure you come to your playlist. Pattern 1 is selected. Our first pattern is going to be of a snare on pattern 1. Okay, make sure you're pattern 1, click and hold and drag until you're on pattern 1. Okay, then you go straight to the channel rack, look for the snare. This is snare we're using, 707 snare. Right click on the channel and click piano roll. Okay, we have sent the 707 snare to the piano roll. This is a piano roll. It has similar tools to the playlist like we talked about in our second video. If you want, you can refer back and to know what each of these tools are for. And you can also select other instruments while you're on the piano roll by clicking this drop down next to the instrument. Right now the snare is selected, it's grayed out, but all our instruments that we put on our channel rack are available here. So we select the 707 snare. This here is the piano roll. As I had said previously, C5 is the optimal point. This is the natural sound of the instrument, but you can go deeper. You can change it to go deeper. So, but this time we're going to use C5. Okay, before you start making a hip hop beat, you need to decide the tempo. The tempo is this part here, shown 130 BPM, beats per minute. Okay, we can either increase the tempo by dragging up or decrease the tempo by dragging down. Right now we're going to drag it down to 95. I usually start at 89, but I want this beat to be a bit faster. So, and to play, you press the space bar. The reason why I'm playing is I want to time the snare here onto the right point where I want to place it by clicking. When I click, this line highlights so I can know where to place the snare, and we can use our keyboard as a MIDI controller. Hit the Q on your keyboard for C5, W to go higher, move along to the right as you go higher. I want to show you a trick. This is one bar. It's divided into 4 little squares shown on this graph. Each of these positions, the squares are equally divided. So I want my snare to come at the real center of the first 2 boxes in this quadrant. Then I want my second snare to come exactly in the middle. You know why? Because this here is exactly a quarter, a half of this beat, and this is 3/4. So our snares are perfectly aligned to this one beat. Okay? To zoom in the piano roll, move up until the pencil turns into a finger and use your scroll button to zoom. Or as we said in our previous video, hold shift and use 1, 2. Right now we're zoomed out at shift 2, and that is the optimal point. So I'm laying out the snare and I've decided to put it at C5 on this position here. These are 2 snares. Now let me show you something. If we go to the playlist and we zoom in, we can now see that the patterns we laid out in the piano roll are here to see. If you look at one bar, it has two snares. Each bar has two snares. So if we play our track, it's just the snare that we have made on pattern 1. Okay, use the space bar to pause. Okay, now what I like to do is to name these tracks so that when we're editing the final piece of the project, we know what is what, we know what to remove, when to remove it, and at the same time you can be more organized if we color them. So right click with your mouse and click on the first option, rename, color and icon. Okay, type the name, which is 707 snare. Color it. I like to color my snares red because I like them hot. So you click on this to get this color options, and you can create a custom color here. Red, let's make it hot. Okay, you click on this icon to choose a color. You can choose any of these colors, or you can add and select your custom colors. Okay, I've created my custom color. When I click enter, this whole bar is painted red and it's named snare, so I know this is my snare. So I'm zooming out by using my mouse and scrolling, or shift 2 or shift 1. Okay, now as I play, you can hear my pattern. The pattern of the snare has been laid out on the playlist. I don't have to lay it again. That's why I made the playlist to begin with in the previous video, as I showed you. Okay, so space bar for pausing. Now that we've laid out the snare, we're going to lay out the kick. We come to the channel rack again by clicking on it, the second up here. Right click, select piano roll, send the HP kick to hip hop kick to the piano roll. You can see these are shadow keys of the snare that we placed. Because we're on pattern 1, it's showing us there's another instrument that's already on pattern 1. So before we do anything, go hold here, drag. We're setting the kick on pattern 2. As I said before, I don't like two instruments on the same pattern because of conflict. I like to be able to control each instrument individually. So let's go on to the piano roll. Okay, as I said previously, I like heavy kicks, and I like it at just below C5 here. That sounds good. That sounds good. So we play it. We can play while placing the kick. To time it and using Q, I can time where I want the kick to be. Okay, I like it there. I'll place one there by clicking there. Then by pressing, I can know where I want it. So I like it there. Okay. So I'll place one more just after the snare. Okay, it's coming through. Now, one thing I have to tell you that's very important: never place a kick onto a snare, because they'll just conflict with each other. Let me give you an example of that. Our snare, if we come to pattern 1, you can see where our snare is from the shadow key. So if I scroll to pattern 2 and move this kick where the snare is, are you hearing that? Doesn't sound right. So Ctrl Z to undo, and I place the kicks there. So there you have it. I go the same, go to the playlist, rename it. I rename it as HP Kick 2. Okay, I'll go and recolor it. I'll make my kick green, bright green. Okay, now to prevent an instrument from sounding too much, you simply delete some points of it, so the brain, it doesn't sound like the same instrument throughout, because the brain likes something different. You need to be able to give your fans a switch in the beat by simply taking out the snare. I'm going to show you some shortcuts on using the playlist. One, you don't have to go up here to select all this. To delete, hold down the right click button on your mouse and it will show a sign of delete. Then you can simply drag and delete. To paint, simply click. Let's undo, Ctrl Z. Then to move, when you hover around, it will bring a sign with 4 arrows that moves it around.